is what it's like to love in stereo.
check. Hello. Hello. And we're good. All right. Welcome back to the show, everyone. I am your host, Matthias, a.k.a. Major VFX on all the socials, saying hello to everybody at the 3D Motion Show. Here is my longtime friend, first-time co-worker.
Yeah.
Right? So here we are from the ZBrush side of the family, Paul Gaboury.
Yes,
Woo!
thank you. Welcome, welcome. All right. Well, welcome, everybody. I'm going to do some stuff in ZBrush, of course, for you all. I'm going to do a lot of some hard surface stuff today, just to show things that you can do hard surface-wise, and we'll get into organic stuff too tomorrow, because I'm going again tomorrow. So I kind of want to talk about some of the elements and sculpting that you can do hard surface wise. And it's really about, for me, designing also within using ZBrush and using that as a designing tool. I'm just going to turn off my quick saves really quick here because we don't need the screensaver or the quick saves. We're good today. So I'm just going to show you a couple little examples here, and then I built a ship specifically for us here at NAB. I'm going to walk you through the process that I would do when I'm trying to build something like what you see here. So this is like some little fun cargo ship. And then we've got, something, near and dear to my heart, little something from Aliens. So again, everything I'm showing is completely 100% done in ZBrush. So I'm doing it all in here. And I've really become a big fan of trying to do different things within ZBrush to work on this. So you can see these are some of the just examples of me going through the process of things that I've been doing in here. So here's another little ship that I made again. And there's a lot of different ways to go about this, a lot of different features to have. Something that maybe we'll all recognize. Pew, 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 little TIE fighter-ness right in here. So I kind of wanted to do a new design and have some fun with this. So this is the ship I started playing around with and for the show. To give you a little idea, I'll rotate it around here. And again, this is all ZBrush, everything that you see in here. So I want to, this is the end product, right, that we're making, but I need to go through this process of what we can do and really understand the features and tools. Like, for example, right now, I've got live booleans on, right? And you can see when I turn that off, how different this ship will look, especially if you look in this area right in here. And if I turn it back on, you can see the difference. So I want to go through processes here and seeing how I can use these features to start creating something like this, okay? So this is going to be the one. In fact, let's keep the inspiration here. In fact, let's render this out real quick. Okay, so I'm just going to actually just export this as an image real fast. We'll just put ship, and I'm going to bring it in so that we can just see what I always. So you can actually crop here too. This is just me just taking an image really quick from ZBrush. I can crop it down right here within the application, and then get that. And then I'm going to bring it in. And I want to use it kind of as even if I do this a lot in references and things like that, I like to have images within ZBrush for me while I'm working. So we'll just bring that in because as we go here, we're not going to see that model completed, right? Because I'm going to be kind of rebuilding something like it live in front of you here. So we're going to add that to my actual spotlight, right? And so, look at double vision. So then this image is now floating. So this feature's also got some really cool hard surface stuff in it as well. But for this sake, I'm just going to use it more as, hey, I want to just look at this while I'm making the rest of it, okay? So we'll have that floating around in here. And in fact, here, I think I'll put it in the bottom corner. I prefer the bottom corner right in there. Just do a little size difference. That's good enough in there, okay? So that way, we know where I'm trying to head, something like this, okay? So we have that. And then the one thing, though, if I'm going to do this, because this feature, this spotlight feature here, it's about projection painting. It can project the images right onto a model. It can also be used sculpturally. So I want to tell ZBrush, don't do that. I want to just use it as a reference. So I'm going to go in my brush system here and tell it right here in the spotlight projection to not use it as a projection. So no, I'm using it more like an image-based, just looking at something for me to get inspired from, okay? So now that we have that set, let's start off. What do I start with, okay? There's multiple ways to go about attacking something like this. So I'm just going to grab a really very difficult piece, a cube. It's the Borg ship. Just like that, we're done. Amazing. Okay, so I want to start working on this and get something like in the corner. So one of the things as a design ability here is when you're working in something like ZBrush, this is like sculpting application, so this is different, right? You're going to be able to start sculpting on the surface and pushing on the surface. Okay, so I want to have a freedom here of not having the restriction to this. When I start doing this and say, yeah, this is perfect. That's look, Mom, look what I made, right? It's not working for me. So we designed something called Dynamesh, right? And this is going to give me the ability to just freely be more like an artist, figure things out, where I want to go with this, okay? So I like to work a little bit lower in the resolution. So just now you can see what we're getting. And what this is going to do, just so we get an understanding sculpturally first real quick, as I'm pushing and you see that stretching that's happening, we will retopologize on the fly. So sculpturally, I'm moving quick and trying to do this because now I'm going to start making some kind of crazy little ship here. So I want something that's a little bit longer, probably, maybe a little bit wider. I don't want it to be as tall. So I'm going to go right about there, and then boom. So even though I'm stretching everything out, what's happening here is it doesn't matter. I have freedom here because now I'm going to start getting in some brushes to sculpturally have some fun here with this piece, okay? So I want to start chipping away this. Think about it like if I'm working in clay, I had some clay in me, I'm going to use certain tools to start taking clay away, adding clay. So we need to come up with brushes that gives us this power and this ability to do that. So we've got an array of brushes here for us to do some things. So I like the clip brushes, the knife brushes. I'm going to just start with this clip brush. And what this is going to give me the ability is like literally just draw out and then cut things out. And again, this is pushing the geometry around, but I'm not worried about that, right? Because I now have this Dynamesh mode turned on where I'm just quickly, getting like a little volume going here that I maybe want to have. You can come down this direction. This will also work symmetrically. So now I can have, just start shaping up some difference in here that I want to have within this piece. So it's just a really simple way to go about this. So you can use this brush as like a curve. You can use this brush as a rectangle too, or even a circle, right? So one of my favorite things, like you want to do something like this, right? And then, yes, that looks beautiful. There we go. I lost my mic. Did I lose my mic? Is my mic gone on you guys? Oh, okay. You guys just turned me down. Story of my life. Okay, so here we go. Turn Paul down. Not happening. Okay, so this brush is going to give you a lot of different freedoms, okay? So we also have a bunch of other ones that are being used and kind of in this idea of looking at something, let's start chopping up and cutting it up. One of our new ones is the knife brush. It's really, really a popular brush now, okay? Because as I am doing stuff like this cutting, this is actually, as you can see, that purple, we call that a polygroup. And what it's doing is making absolutely completely new topology that's clean where I need it. So this is perfect for sculpting as well. And it's just adding triangles along the edge here. So the reason I want to highlight this, because the difference between these two brushes that I've been using, this clip brush, is a little different. This brush is doing like a push, right? So it's actually pushing the geometry to meet that angle that I wanted, okay? And then I just go remesh it with the Dynamesh, and then boom, it cleans up everything. So we have multiple options here for us the way we want to work, okay? So I got a nice little base mesh here. I got something going here that I kind of like. Let's add a little difference to this. So I'm going to make the front a little bit more like what I have in my inspiration. I'm going to go in a little bit of a ramp in there. I'll do that. Okay, there. That looks nice. Okay, I'm going to go from the top, looking at every angle. Here, we'll turn off the polyframe now, okay, and just start playing around with getting the design that I want to have here. I kind of don't like the back now. So this is the point of this, is I want to be free right now to just design and start figuring things out here. And then I can say, as a design, I need to make some big movements still. So besides just using a brush right now, I can come into my options that I have here, and I want to do more things. So this is just our gizmo that's going to allow you to do more stuff. But what's within the gizmo, as you can see, there's these shapes that we have through here, and then we have some deformers. So I'm going to handy dandy deformer that some of us are very used to, I'm sure, that are watching, okay? And then this is going to give me the ability to say how many points do I want to have to move around this mesh, right? So I'm going to do very few, because I want to make some big changes right now to this, okay? So right now there's just, in essence, 8 points total. But what I'm going to do, which is really nice, is I'm going to tell it I want it to also be symmetrical. So you can see the 4 points on the one side are gone. Because what I want is I want to just look at this 1 point right here, and only that point. And as I move this side, right, the other side is actually moving for me. Okay, so I have this flexibility to really do some nice big changes maybe in the design that I'm maybe trying to do and change that up a little bit. So I'm a really big fan of using a deformer like this to start just playing with that sizing and getting some cool different look in there. Okay, that looks good. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to come and say, let's go ahead and accept that. And then now let's continue building upon this. Let's start putting in some of the fun stuff that's on this ship, okay? So I can copy this ship really fast, but then what it's really nice, this is one of my favorite workflows that I like to do, is not only in that do we have these deformers, but we got all these geometrical shapes above. Because when you're starting to build, you're using a lot of shapes to start figuring this out and getting where you want it to go. Okay, so I can say, how about let's grab a sphere, and now I've got a sphere sitting here that I can move it around, position this where I want, resize this, and say I'm going to make some kind of little radar detector up here at the front. Okay, or hey, it's a window now, right? That's the beauty of this. I can even, as you can see, change my spans and even make this look like completely something different. So I'm just going back and forth with this shape, trying to just figure out something that I want. And then again, I love the workflow of being able to copy it, right? And then I can grab something else. And I'm going to show you another way that I like to use this. So it's just simple shapes right now that I'm just trying to come up with that design of where I want things to live and things to be. Make size a little bit bigger, something like this, okay? So as I'm building here, we start to have meshes that are being piling up in one area. So right now, we call these a subtool. So right now, this is the ship, and these other shapes I've added are sitting just in this space right now, okay? So I want to kind of start separating this as I'm going here, and because as we go, I'm going to start using other features that I'm going to take advantage of all the other pieces of geometry that I'm going to be adding into this scene. So I'm going to look at just this portion. So I can actually flip my viewing of this back and forth, because again, back to clay sculpting, we'll take arms off and legs off and sculpt the arms in our hand. We want to have this ability. So I'm going to split this off now so that there is now two of them, right? So now I have two pieces. This is its own piece, and then this is its own piece. This is also going to give us the flexibility to take each one of these and go another way with the polygons and do whatever we want with it. As an example, ZBrush can handle 100 million polygons per mesh, right? So now by me splitting two of them, I'm getting 100. I can go to 100 million on this one, and I can go to 100 million on this one. Okay, but I'm gonna keep designing now on this ship, and let's keep adding some things in here. I want to add a little bit more designing elements to this. So now I'm going to say, okay, I like this as my base. It's a really good base. I'm happy with that. So now I'm going to just get a little bit cleaner topology. I want it to be symmetrical, so I'm going to make sure my symmetry's on, and I'm going to remesh this. So now this is different, where this is giving me a nice clean topology that I have. So this is just like that, doing an automatic retopologizing of my surface. Because I want now to start using more sculpting brushes in here, and I want to start doing dividing up. You could definitely do this with the Dynamesh version, but I want to get right out the gate. My pipeline would be, I want to get a little bit of a nicer way of having some cleaner topology wherever I want. And now you can see, look up here. There you go. That's the first one. It's the first one. Okay. My polygon count on this right now is 186,000, which in the grand scheme of things really isn't a lot. Okay. So in fact, I'll go up even a little bit more. Why not? Let's go to 744,000. So let's start looking at some other brushes and some other things that we can do with this, right? So I want to start maybe doing a little bit more changes through here. Okay, so I'm going to grab and start having some freedom with our beveling brushes. So we've got two type of beveling brushes now that are sculptural. Again, that's the thing to keep in mind here. I'm not box modeling, which we're going to get to in here in a little second too. I want to be able to just have freedom to go and say, oh, I want to start from here to here and start putting a bevel in the surface, right? So I'm changing the profile, right, of this angle here, right? So here we'll go deeper. I'll go a little bit bigger so you guys can really visually see something changing bigger, right? So you can see as I'm going across here, this is just sculpturally changing things. So this is what we had right here, and then now from this angle you can see the difference, right? So I've now put more of a rounded point there than more of a harsh point there, right? And when I start looking at this, I start to even now bring in some masking too, right? So let's bring in like this. We'll do a little bit of masking now there. And again, I want this to be symmetrical. So I'm going to start unmasking some stuff. And I'm going to say, let's inverse that. And then now, okay, I'm going to blur that a little bit. But now that I have the masking, let's use a different type. Let's use the flat ability, okay? And what this one's going to do for us is give us the ability, the same thing, and to now flatten the surface down. Okay, so now you can start moving through this. And again, this is now, I have freedom here. I'm not worried about my topology, right? And since I'm sculpting hard surface now, I'm not trying to box model and move things. Okay, and then angles like this that I've started to establish, I want to keep doing things like I just put in on a lot of different spots here. So I'm going to switch to an old tool that some of us still use a lot. And I want to get an angle just right that I want to look at. So I'm going to tell ZBrush to flip it for me. So now it's flipping to give me that angle that I would want to have areas in this direction. So this tool allows me to actually, besides me navigating around, it's actually changing things and allowing me to do maybe at a different angle through here, right? So again, I'm just drawing out this line, which we call the transpose line, just drawing that out, and this circle out here, I can hold the control key and flip, and then it actually changes and looks at that angle for me, because then now I can come in here with this brush and say I want to go bevel from there to there. I can bevel right across that, right? Or like we were doing before, I can do a little bit of a mask instead, add a little bit of different design in there, okay? And then go across and start pushing that around and get that angle in there that I want, okay? And you see I didn't have symmetry on, right? So if you want to have symmetry on, you would want to make sure that's on so you're going to have it on both sides. I kind of like breaking asymmetry relatively early in designs sometimes. So it's nice to be able to do that. And then I can still come back to this brush, even with this topology, and make nice cuts like this. And then what I really like now is let's keep going further down the rabbit hole. Let's keep going here, okay? So I'm going to now turn something else on here that's going to allow me to actually do some kind of different little cuts. So instead of just flat like this, okay, I'm going to use my draw size to do a little different elements in this. So I can actually come in here and then do that. So now it's doing a little bit of a step that's happening through here. So here I'll show you on something also just to wrap your head around what I'm doing here. Let's just grab the sphere, and now we've done the Death Star. Just like that, we've done the board ship, the Death Star, all in one demo. This is amazing. Gosh, we're good at this, okay? So what this is doing is when you'll see is that, right? So it's causing a stepping. So instead of pushing everything to meet that curve, it's only going a certain distance, which is based upon my actual draw size, right? So this draw size is saying how much flat clipping do you actually want on the surface. Now what opens up this is I've been doing simple stuff. So you got to know that this brush also, and these brushes can also do very sharp angles if you want, but then I can also do a rounded type of angles with these brushes as well, right? So now I'm combining what I'm doing with this brush, what I'm doing with this feature, which is B radius, which stands for brush radius. So it's using that brush radius. So again, if I went with a bigger brush and did now this again, you're going to see the step is bigger. It's pushing more on the surface, right? Because what's happening is the brush size is saying to limit how this brush is going to interact with the sculpted surface. So that's what's happening here. Okay, so I often like using these brushes and letting, in essence, ZBrush do some of the work for me in this design, right? Element in here. Okay, so keep moving here and looking at things that we can do. There's a lot of other brushes here that we have for sculptural purposes for hard surface. So we have a trim dynamic as well. So I can actually just sculpturally just sit there and trim down what I want through here. So let's switch our material actually so it's a little bit better for you all. There you go. Okay, so you can see this is just now freely sculpting some hard surface through here, right? So we have a brush like this, and we have a brush that's called H polish as well. That's really popular. So I can just start changing the kind of angles that I'm getting in here really quickly, right? So I'm just using this brush to change and make this part be a little bit different, sharper. And you can see if I push harder, you'll see it changing the surface and sculpting into the surface. Okay? So it really opens up some things for me to be able to try, I want to come down through here, maybe sharpen that up, or maybe I want to round it in here as well, and I want to use this brush to round. And again, having a tablet or Cintiq as I'm on right now is really beneficial because ZBrush is pressure sensitive. Okay? So having that pressure, I'm barely touching my surface right now. I'm just trying to blend in these modes so that I'm more of a rounded through here on the top is what I want to put in this portion of what I'm at right now with this design. Okay, so this is giving us freedom with higher polygon counts and allowing us to do more things. Right? And now looking at this, I'm like, I kind of don't like the asymmetry that I brought into this. Okay, so now I'm going to say, I want to change this, I want to update this, I want to do some things. So again, the ability of having, we're not restricted by the topology at all. We're doing whatever we want with it. Okay, so I can go even backwards now and say, how about, let me go back even into Dynamesh again and turn this back on. Now, what's also been added is the resolution, right? If you guys remember when I first did this, if I turn this on, this is the resolution we get for this particular piece right now, okay? So I'll turn off B-radius, we don't need that on anymore, right? So you can see the topology that you're getting here and things like this. So the resolution is helping me control that. So if we want even lower, okay, that's something like 32, and did it, you can see it's getting more faceted in essence, right? Because there's less information there, topology there. So I'm going to say, I kind of like where this is sitting at right now. So I'm going to click and drag my resolution and pick. So I'm moving my cursor, and if you see the resolution slider, you see how it's moving? We're looking and analyzing the actual topology underneath this picker and setting the resolution to what it would need to be in order to keep consistent to what I'm looking at right now. So when I turn on a Dynamesh, you can see there was really not a lot of change there at all, okay? Because again, I want to stay creative as possible, and then to this point, I'm going to even just mirror and weld over the other side, and then there I got it over the other side, just like that. Okay, there's going to be multiple ways that we can get the left side to the right side to the left side, right? So I just want to go now with this in my design. So this is now giving me polygonal freedom, doing whatever I want. Now let's take the other approach that a lot of people are used to with hard surface, which is more of like a low polygon, box modeling type of style that we have in there. So I'm going to let's add some wings. I need to add some wings in here. So I'm going to insert a cube, right? And then I'm actually going to even swap this cube out. So this is what I have right now. And again, going back into my bag of geometry here, I'm going to click those on. And when I'm doing this, I actually want to have no topology. I just want to have these 6 faces here because I want to have a lot of freedom because I'm not even quite sure what I want as far as maybe in this process, because we're talking about design part right now. And I need to have a lot of freedom to figure out where do I want to go with this, right? So I'm just going to position this a little bit and say maybe it would be a little bit lower. And this is why I'm getting rid of the spans, because as I'm moving things, again, I'm not worried about the topology overlapping things happening through here, okay? And then I can make it be taller, a little bit something like this, and then maybe needs to be a little bit skinnier. And then we'll put a little angle on it, maybe something like that. And we'll go a little bit smaller like this, okay? And then now let's start adding now some other little bit change here in our design, okay? And now we have. So this is what some of us are used to maybe that are watching this, that you do hard surface, okay? I don't even know how many ZBrush users that we have online. Raise your hand if you're a ZBrush user online. I can't see that. You know that, right? I can't see you. Here, go ahead, raise your hand. Any ZBrush users here on the floor? Nobody. Great. Thanks for coming. Okay, thanks for being here. Really happy. I'm going to take a swig. You are now. That's what I like to hear. Welcome. Oh, if you have a question on the floor too, fire away. I can answer. I can remember to answer it for you down the road. Okay. So this is more like, having a box model and things like this. So we wanted to take another approach to this. So I'm just going to hide the main ship right now, just so you guys can visually understand what's happening here. We're used to having like selecting your vertex, selecting your edges, right? Again, another really technical thing. We made a brush that in essence is selecting all 3 of these things at all times. So they're never off. So all 3 components that we have, which are your edges, your vertex, and your polygon faces, they're always on. So this is a hover state. So if I hover over, you'll see it says QMesh a poly. Okay, it says QMesh a poly, but if I go over an edge, insert an edge loop. If I go to a point, now it's saying move points. So instead of us selecting out what we want, we're having it all here, and then we're going to use certain actions. So if I hold a space bar, you're going to get a menu. So along the top are the actions. What do I want to have happening to the surface? And then down here is the target. So the target would be a way for us to look at and say, do I want to look at only the faces across the top or not? So as an example, let's put something together real quick. So again, so we can just get our heads wrapped around it for those that are new users. Like my gentleman here is a new user here now, right? So we can insert an edge loop really quick, insert another one here, insert another one here. So I'm just positioning these wherever I want, move them around, and stuff like this. So what starts to happen is you're going to start doing things maybe like this as I'm working, where we call these polygroups, okay, in ZBrush. So like They're almost like, I guess you can think of them a little bit as a selection set for some of those, or maybe used as selection sets in Cinema 4D or Maya or something like that. So I can just select out and look at this portion. Because again, we're a sculpting application. So you're going to want to be sculpting on certain things and using masking and stuff. So I can mask off all those faces, inverse the mask. Things like this we're going to take advantage. Right? But I'm doing this on purpose to show you now that I've laid out all this topology, when I want to go and say do a Q mesh, which is not an extrude. This is not an extrude. I'm going to show you why it's not an extrude, because this is going to be amazing here. I'm only pulling right now on that one face, okay? So I do have the ability to say, well, I want to select these faces and then pull on all those. So you do have this ability to select some faces off and be able to pull things up, okay? But there's going to be times where maybe that's not going to work. Maybe I want to get all these faces. And let's say right now we're not really high res, but what if we're a little bit higher res? So this is where these target things are going to come into play. I want to tell ZBrush, no. Hold up. I don't want to do a single polygon. I want to do several polygons. So to save, again, myself some time, instead of having to try and select out all the faces maybe that I want to move, I can tell ZBrush that I want to move by a flat island of polygons, right? So then now when I click anywhere, see all of them are moving as a unit now. And you see we re-polygroup this, because this is one of the most important features in ZBrush, is having this polygrouping, because there's going to be some amazing stuff that we can do with this. Okay, and I'm going to show you as we go along here. Right, so this is giving us the ability to do that kind of stuff. Now, let's go back to having just one color. And again, this is great. It's wonderful. And turn my ship back on, I'm like, yay. Right, so I want to divide this up. So now this is what it would really look like if we added topology, right? So as you can see, this is still sitting at 168, right? So this is like just showing you the version if there was more information, more topology there. But instead of using us where we're actually going to divide and add topology like this, right? So see, now I'm sitting at almost 42,000 polygons, okay? And it's giving you that kind of look, right? I want to do something else. I want to use dynamic subdivisions and just show me what that would look like if I did divide it up to 50,000, but it's not actually dividing to 50,000 right now, okay? Because this is where, again, I'm in a little bit of a design phase right now that I'm messing around and playing with things, okay? This is telling me right here how many smoothings do I have. So I'm going to give it some more, and it's just adding more topology so you can see the surface is just getting a lot smoother. But now what this has done is I am working actually with something that is like this, super low, not very dense, but then I can still see the dense version. And now, taking back to my brush that we're talking about here, right? I want to maybe start sliding around these edges and stuff and start creating a little bit better looking design maybe for myself. So the slide brush and telling it to completely do the complete edges. Again, I got an action and I'm having what my target's going to be here. So now I can start moving this around. We'll turn off the coloring, and you can see how I can watch the shape change for me, right? I can grab any one of these edges in here and start manipulating and changing these. So what I'm doing, I'll turn this back on, is I'm sliding, see the edges, around, because maybe I want this top part to be a little bit more harsh. And the opposite, this case, I'd probably want that front part to be a little bit more, right? Because the airflow's got to go over that. So I want to have a little bit better airflow happening through there, okay? So this is where I'm now just taking some other things here. So we talked about, really quickly, I told you guys, the Q mesh is not actually an extrusion, okay? So I'm going to now go to a single polygon, and I'm going to start pulling out, okay, what you think is an extrusion, but the minute I do this, it's not. We are actually welding and deleting and forming everything all at the same time, to the point where, watch this, everybody wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, boom, a hole, right? And then I can even keep making the hole bigger and even getting rid of stuff that I don't want anymore. And then I can even, now let's bring it back, right? So this brush is doing multiple things all at once. So this is why this is a Q mesh. It's not an extrude. It's very different. We do have an extrude in here, but this particular mode is what makes this brush and separating it for hard surface stuff, especially, or polygonal things. There's a lot of things we can do with this brush. So now I start looking at this. Okay, for me, I like to have a little bit more hard surface element to this. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, let's crease this. right? And then now you get shapes like this. So now you're going to have some roundness like that in there. And now everything's back to being really crisp and harsh. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell ZBrush, let's not make it so harsh at every level. Okay, so remember I'm telling it to show me 4 levels of information. Okay, but then now I'm telling the creasing only to hold for 2 of those. So what a creasing does, for those that don't know, it tells a program, hey, that's a creased edge, you're not allowed to move. Just like right now, my face isn't moving. Great joke. Thanks for laughing, everybody. Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to move right along here and come in like this. So this really starts to open up some things now for me as well, so that I can see what's going on, but then I'm also just allowed to come in here and say, I can now say crease, I can uncrease an edge, and now I'm getting a little bit better of a round. If I want this corner to actually turn a little bit more, and then I'm seeing all this actually take place right away in here. So now I'm going to say, let's look and say like these edges, let's play a little bit, let's add another edge here, okay? And I'm going to take now these faces, and let's also take this one, and let's take this one, all right? So I have now these selected like we're used to. And then I'm going to say, let's inset that. And then I'm going to inset that in. So we start doing this, right? So, and I can even change my polygrouping on the fly by tapping the Alt key, Alt, Alt, Alt. And then now switch back to QMesh. And then again, here's where the target, and this is where the polygrouping comes into play. I can say polygroup all, and then now I can push in, right? And start giving, I would want more of a look like that probably on the wing. And now I turn on my dynamics, throw a little bit creasing on that again, and then there you go. So we're starting to build up something that looks a little bit more cleaner hard surface. So there's a way to do this. So now let's get into some also really, really cool stuff that I love to do when I'm working on things like this. So let's bring back now, let's go back to the main ship here so we can see this. So I want to start now bringing things like live Boolean, right? So this is how I started creating this piece, right? Inside of ZBrush is just using these techniques that I'm talking about. So you can see some of the things that we were talking about in here live. Now, what's really, really fun, and I find one of like, this is, when we did something like this, what I'm about to show you, I was like super happy. I was like, yes! And then my boss is like, what's your problem? I'm like, nothing, I'm good. Good. Okay, so I'm going to insert a cube, but this time I'm going to use the cube in a different way. Okay, so I'm going to have my live Boolean system turned on, and I'm going to be subtractive. And so you can see this is just subtracting through the surface, right? And allowing me to do whatever I want on this. Okay, so I want to have a little bit of that look. Maybe I want to rotate it up or down. And this is obviously just something simple like a cube. It's not that impressive. It's not that exciting. But you can see how I can really change up a design fast just by me looking and playing with this ability. Because maybe I like something like this now for this person, right? Now, where the fun stuff starts coming into play is we start using other brushes here, specifically insert mesh brushes. So artists usually, especially hard surface artists, they'll make a brush full of pieces. Okay, so for example, a very popular one that a lot of people use is this model kit one. So this is one that people do, and you can see there's a bunch of pieces just sitting up here, and we can cycle through and get this. And so this is like kit bashing now. I'm going to be able to take stuff, and obviously taking advantage of us being in 3D, I want to take advantage of this. I want to be able to have a bunch of different shapes here that I can use to start bashing things together, right? So maybe I want to put this panel on here, so I'm going to go back to this piece and say maybe I want to put a panel here at the front here, so I can just start drawing this out. We'll get rid of my subdivision levels for this and start drawing it out, and then boom, I've got the panels. Okay, I don't want 2. That's silly in the spot. So I'm going to now do something else that is really nice, okay, is how about I change things on the sides, right? So this is masked out and everything's masked out, right? So this gives me the ability to move just this one. But what it also is going to give me the ability is I can actually start cycling through, and I don't know what I want to use. This is the beauty of this system, is having a brush made, like say, oh, that looks better. I kind of like what's going on there. I can size that down a little bit, put that as an element on this ship now, drop it down a little bit in the surface a little bit more. So it's really giving me a lot of flexibility, right? And if I don't want this anymore, I can show that, inverse it, and I can look at that and say, okay, I don't want that piece anymore, so I can actually just delete it, get rid of it. I don't want that. I changed my mind. And this is the point is, I, maybe as the artist, didn't know which one looked better until I started positioning and plopping these pieces on the surface. And so that's where all these things that you are seeing, like if you look at that piece right there, right? That's in this brush, right? So I'm just grabbing it. So it speeds up my workflow, it speeds up my time, okay? But you can use that other thing we're doing. Now, I want to take this a whole nother level. Like forget this, this is nice, this is cool. But here's where I was like, my boss is like, are you okay? I'm like, no, this is going to be amazing. So I'm going to take this same concept of having pieces of geometry that I can use. And I'm going to combine it now, right, with the live Boolean, which I just used a cube, which I know was super impressive. I got it. It was awesome. I'm going to do something else, though. I'm going to switch to another brush that I have, okay? And we're going to switch to a brush that's called the IMM Boolean, all right? And then this is where you can just go have a ton of fun and just making really cool stuff start to happen. Let's say, for example, this frame, boom, put that in, and this is actually cutting into the surface all at the same time, right? And then I can move this wherever I want as well. Maybe I just want to do a little design element like this. Okay, now maybe I want to, let's even get a little something like this and say, okay, I want to have some kind of little camera thing on the side of this ship. Literally draw it out. And there you go. I got a camera piece right on the side of that ship, right? This is literally taking that mesh and using it as a cutting in surface. So the difference with our system here is the one advantage we have with our live booleans and being a sculpting application that go millions, millions and millions, 100 million polygons, I can use anything. I can use a face, I can use an arm, I can use whatever I want in this scenario. Right now, I'm just grabbing some simple shapes to start playing with things like this, and then finding out a little something like this and say it needs a little bit of a vent there, right? And so what's happening is this, these shapes are sitting here, right? And then this is the beauty. This is completely different topologies, completely different stuff going on, and I'm not even touching the part that's the actual main body of the ship. This is the main body of the ship, but then I have the subtools below it affecting and giving me items like this, right? So as for an example, I'm going to create one of these real fast for you all, right in front of you, and you can see, taking advantage now, let's layering what I've been talking about. I'm going to take a cylinder again, okay, and let's use that brush that I was talking about. So I'm going to do a cylinder like this. Let's rotate it up like that. That's good. Let's change the span so I have no spans here. I'm good with the rest of that. Let's go ahead and size that down a little bit. All right, and then now let's switch to that Z modeler brush again. I don't need a massive brush size. Okay, and let's start having some fun here. Now we start beveling. I'm going to start to do some beveling out. I'm going to grab Q meshing and do a poly loop out. Okay, and then I'm going to say let's insert an edge loop through here, in here, and in fact, let's delete. I can delete my edge loops, getting that nice little ramp happening in there. Add another edge loop through here, right? Again, poly grouping. I can shrink my selections, grow my selections. So I can say new poly group, boom, like that. Q mesh by poly groups. Okay, that allows me to pull this something down like that. Okay, and then now let's also bevel this here, and I'm going to bevel a little bit in there. Okay, so now that looks good. I want to, because we're in the world of ZBrush, I need to see what this is going to look like when we divide up. Okay, because in a little bit too, I'm going to show you taking advantage of the hard surface polygonal wise with the stuff that we can do too. So again, I want to look at what this is going to see softened, i.e. divided up, divided up, divided up. Okay, that's not really what I want for my look of this. So again, I'm going to come and say, let's crease it. I'm looking maybe something a little bit more like that. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and crease. I want that to be creased as well. So I'm going to say smooth this out. We'll drop that down. I'm looking more something like this, right? And now let's pull something that, again, exists. Kit bash, kit bash, kit bash, okay? So now I'm going to say, let's go back to that model kit right in there. I'm going to say, let's grab something else to use in here, right? Just cycling through something that catches my eye in there. And then we go, boom. Holy Anne Hathaway, just like that. We get something like this, right? So I'm building some kind of little button through here and doing this. Now, To convert this now and add it to the brush, it's a simple process actually. All I got to do is tell ZBrush, hey, grab this and let's throw it in the brush now. So this is opening up. Anything you guys make, you can even add to the brush. That's all we did with this system in here. That's all this is just pieces that were added to the brush. Okay, so in the brush palette, there's going to be a create menu in here, and in here there's buttons. So you can see there's create insert mesh brush. Okay, and you can even say from mesh. So when I click the insert mesh brush, it's going to say, hey, I've noticed you've got a brush selected that has a bunch of these. Do you want me to just add it, or do you want to make a new one? So adding it is append. So now, and then it's giving you a little tip. Hey, if you hit the M key, you'll be able to pull up the menu that is this menu. Okay, so now at the very end here, because I appended it to the end of this one, and you can see all the pieces we have in here, right? There's that piece right there. Okay, and it took on the name, by the way, it's a beautiful name, 3M 3D, right? It's taken on the name of the mesh in here. That's what it's taking on. Okay, so now this is going to allow me to draw out as many as I want. Okay, I can even tell it when I'm drawing it out. Let's do one of our favorites that people love is radial, drawing multiple at the same time if you want to. But what I want is not only use it to draw out, I want to use it as a kind of subtractive cutting into the surface, right? So I'm going to say, let's look at this, and we're going to just mask, and I'm just going to simply push this up over top, something like that. Open that up. So now you can see I've inverted the normals in essence, right? I pushed the bottom half past everything else. So we're going to go now switch to that IMM Boolean again. Okay, because this is the same concept, same idea, but then these brushes are made specifically to work with live Booleans. So by me doing what I just did there, I'm setting this brush up to work with the live Boolean system. Okay, so I'm going to say capture it like this, because that's how I'm going to want to draw it out always. And I'm going to insert this time through here. I'm going to append it. And so now this one's at the end here. Okay, so if we go back now and we look here, let's even just take it simpler too, so you can again get the idea and the concept here. I'm going to turn this into a mesh, and we'll duplicate that one, and we'll size this one down. Sound effects so important. I'm going to turn on subtractive. So what's happening here is there's a littler cube inside the bigger cube. It's not even relevant what's this shape at all, because what I'm doing, I'm setting myself up for the workflow that we were talking about. Like when I grab shapes like this, I want to just see the result immediately and then move it around and say, maybe I want to do something like this. So this is the idea. I wouldn't even know, box modeling wise, the fastest way to approach doing something like this, right? And let's not forget, this has got a lot of different things that I can do. There's even one that's got like a pole going through it, right? This one right here. This has got even undercutting in there, right? So there's actually empty space behind there. Think about it box modeling wise. If I said, hey, go make that box modeling, you got to start. You're getting more technical now. You're being more like engineer-like, not creative. And we're always trying to think creative. All right. So this brush I'm making, when I draw this out, okay, yes, magic happened. Nothing happens because we by default make sure the brush understands, hey, there's a surface there. So when I go to draw out, it's going to stay right on top of that surface. So what I want to do is when I'm drawing this out, right, I want actually to start looking like that when I draw it out. Right? That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this. Okay, because I made it. Now, I don't want to have to do this for every single one. Sit there with the gizmo and moving and adjusting, moving and adjusting. That's not fun. That's not a creative way of working. So I'm going to come in here and tell ZBrush, all right, let's do some modifying to this. You can see there's the piece that I have. So this, see, it says 37, the slider below it, because there's 37 pieces of topology inside this brush. Okay, and then I'm going to want to tell it, maybe I want to even cycle through them, and I also want to control the depth of this. So this depth value right here is telling ZBrush how far in on the surface should this land, all right? So if I change this to something like just 0 and then redraw out, you can see I start to get that look now. So it's starting to show me what's actually in the brush here. So for an example, I would probably start with, I usually take that number and do the opposite negative and start with that, and that's all I switch, and then start drawing this in and giving me that result, see? And then if I want a little variation, things like that, I can actually just come in here and just change this value and do like a -5 instead. And so when I draw this out, see, I'm using one mesh now to create like different type of variations in here, okay? And now let's go back to the ship that we were looking at here. And then we have, and I've been putting some pieces on here. I want to now put some of that in this area right here, right? So now I just draw this out, okay? And then this is on the main ship. So this is why I did that double cube. I want to go to the mesh that's set up to be a subtract. So now when I draw it out, that is exactly what I'm going to see, is those pieces there, okay? And then I can even, besides that, not only can I do duplications like this, okay? So I'm just copying, same distance, same thing, right, happening everywhere through there. But I'm going to take this one more step for me, right? So I'm going to split this now. And then now it's its own mesh. So this is now just by itself, all right? And I'm going to use an instancing system that we have, which is called array mesh, right? And I'm going to tell ZBrush to do something with this. I'm going to say, let's array this now, right? And so here we'll do this. So you got this piece right here, okay? So if we look here, we'll solo this out. You have this being able to be arrayed, and then I can change the repeats on the fly, okay? And obviously the benefit to this is the only thing that actually exists is this. None of these exist at all, right? And it's just using, instead of me coming over here with the UI, I was just using the GUI that we have, and you can change your amounts. But because we got that, let's get back into that Z modeler again, and I'm going to say insert multiple edge loops, and then say let's put some edge loops in there. And then now let's Q mesh this and say polygroup all, and let's push in instead. Right? So now that I have these, even at any point I'm editing, they're all getting the edit, every single one of them. And if I'm happy, I say make mesh, and then now we're back to it's actually physically there, right? And then now you're going to have these, you turn live Boolean back on, all happening through there. Right? But you can do all this live in real time as well. And I'm just combining some of these features to have through here. All right? So I guess I'm good. Matthias, where are you on time? I can keep going, I guess. You guys want me to keep going? You guys interested? Not interested? What's going on? Good, good, good. Lively bunch here. Lively bunch. I like it in the back. Give me a little whoop whoop. Okay? So as you can see now, all these repeating elements that I have in this ship, right, are array mesh, right? So I just showed you a simpler way, but now if you start really breaking down everything I've been talking about here, and now if I show you the whole ship, you can already start seeing where I use certain features to do certain things that I've just covered only today in this 48 minutes, okay, to have this ability. So we have the ability to paint as well inside of ZBrush. So this camouflage is actually color information. It's paint information that we have. Okay, and so this is how I did that. So we'll grab a different piece, I guess. We'll grab this one, right? So we're looking at this one now. And I want to put that camouflage on this piece so it kind of blends with the other camouflage that I have going on everywhere. So we have something called surface noise, where I can click on this, and then this piece is going to open up, right? And what we have here is like a noise generator, right? But we're in a sculptural world, so this is also sculpturally going to be doing everything. This is not a render thing. We can actually have it be a render or actually make it go on the model itself and be a surface change. So this is like a noise that's going across the whole thing. So if I come out of this, you can see it's there. It's everywhere. I can even pick and choose where I want that noise to be and not to be. To be or not to be, that is the question. So I'm masking things off. So we go solo. So I'm masking off portions, so it's picking and choosing. And remember, I'm really, really, really low polygon right now, right? So I'm looking at really dynamic noise on something that's really low. So what I also wanted to do was not use this noise, but there's 3 different types of noises that we can apply to our surfaces here inside of ZBrush. So this is the one, just like a fractal, just changing some basic noise. You can bring in an image if you want to, and use an image, which is down here at the bottom. We're using an alpha. I'm going to go use something that we already have pre-made noises of. So here's a bunch of pre-made noise, and you can see this second one from the top, camouflage. Like, that's it. You know, I'm starting to apply some camouflage. And what's actually happening default-wise is both those noises are actually combining. We're using both at the same time right now. Okay, so if we look at this, I go in closer here, you can see the noise, both are there. And I can actually do it as a multiply, a difference, minimum. So now it's only going in certain spots. I can do it as a max. Okay? Or I can say, you know what, the only thing I want is this. And then I'm going to say, let's throw some color in this too. Right? So I can get a variation in there of some different colors. Right? So this is how I started to do the camouflage that we're looking at. And then if I want to go back, I can change the size of that camouflage real fast. What do I want that to look like? I can come back in and edit. I can play with these layers in through here too. And play with that. Right? So that's more what I'm doing. I was going more for like the gray. The Navy, our Navy uses this kind of gray look on their camouflage stuff. Right? And so now there, that piece has got that camouflage. Okay? And then I want to apply this as now paint as well. So I don't want sculptural change to happen. So you can use this, and you can see you can actually push in and out of the surface. So this is getting pushed out at different levels because each part of the camouflage has different intensities. So you got different levels, or I can go pushing in at different intensities. And again, we got to reiterate the fact that I'm on very, very, very low. I'm on 190 polygons right now, right? But ZBrush is going to show you the result that you would want to have. So because I'm living in the world of the ZBrush, I want to now say, hey, let's go and start applying this as paint. In fact, I don't want it to be any sculptural change. So let's go ahead and edit that. And I'm going to say in here, let's make the strength just be 0 so that it's just only looking at the paints that I'm doing right now. Okay? Say okay. I'm going to say you can grab colors here too. See, and that's changing your colors. So I'm going to say anytime you start grabbing this, okay, this is changing colors. So you can see the beautiful blues we're getting. Right? So you can see there's a painting application as well. So I've already filled this with a certain color. So I can actually grab that color again like that. I can pick the color if I want to. I can hold the C key. I can even grab colors from the UI, grab whatever I want. Right? So I liked the color that I originally went with. So I'm going to grab that color. It's been filled. So I've went up here to the color and I said fill the object. Fill it with this color. That's the color I want. Right? So if I selected a different color, and it did color fill object. Now it's filled, see, with that beautiful minty green. And so when you change the colors here, you see this one's not changing anymore. Because now think about dumping paint on it, right? So I'm going to go back to that blue that I liked, and we'll fill this. Okay, and now what I would like to do is I would want to apply my dynamic. Let's get some more topology in here, right? So now I'm at 3 million just for this one piece. This is 3 million. And I can go up again if I want to. Now I'm at 12 million. And I can go again. And I can go again. So I can go all the way up to 100 million with regular topology, but ZBrush also has the ability to go to 1 billion. That's right, 1 with a B. 1 billion polygons. Okay, so now I'm going to say, let's go get that camouflage again, and let's apply this as vertex paint information. So I'm going to turn on my noise. There it is. And I say apply. You can make it a mask if you want to. So this is now going through the process and applying it as a mask. Or I can say, you know, forget a mask. How about I just apply it to the surface itself? So now obviously sitting at 12 million, it'll take a second to make that mask. So now this is actually a mask that's being on here, right? So see, I can clear the mask. It's gone. So what I want to do instead is instead of a mask, let's just have it apply to the surface. Okay, so I'm going to apply that to the surface. There, it's paint. There, it's on there now. See, there's no mask. So if we look at this, like I can apply paint. And then now, let's start using some painting stuff and have some fun with this, adding some details. I look at hard surface kind of 4 stages. There's like the blocking out stage that I started today with. Then there's this stage where I'm starting to put some of the details in. Then there's a 3rd stage that I'm finalizing everything. And then my 4th stage is like the damage, rendering, posing that I might want to do. So I'm starting now getting into the stage where I'm bringing this more to life, and I want to start maybe painting on this a little bit. So I'm going to switch to my paintbrush. Okay, I'm going to turn off actually symmetry in this case. I'm going to hold down the shift key, which is smoothing, and I can even blur my painting if I want. Okay, but I can grab any color that I want as well over here. So I can grab a color from here and start painting with that as well. Okay, and remember I said the projection. I don't know why it would, but we can even put the ship right on the ship. Yes, tell me, wait, we haven't wanted to do that, right? So I can project this even on here as well. So if I go to my samples and turn it back on, whoops, turn it on. That's usually useful. Okay, and then here I'm going to, so you guys can see what it's going to do. Actually, here, let's zoom up even more. Not there. Let's make this bigger so you guys can visually see. And then let's go like this big through here, right? So you can see the image. I can even paint this way, right? So you can use the imagery itself also to paint. Okay, so I want to use now the ability to not only paint, but I want to use masking and material changing with this as well. So right now, this is the material that's assigned to this particular model. It's got the metal A material. All right, I'm going to pick, let's pick a darker gray, something like this, and let's even pick a different material here. All right, so let's pick maybe the green, or nothing would help if I actually select the one I wanted, that satin one. And so now when I'm painting, see, I'm painting with that information. Okay, so what I want to start doing is making this look a little bit like damage that's happening. All right, so I'm going to come down to my masking options, and I'm going to come in here to my smoothness, and I'm going to just play with the range a little bit, maybe even a little bit more, just a little bit more, until to mask, right? And so now it's masking an area. So here, if we turn off the paint, so again, once again, you have a visual, and we'll make the color brighter. So you can see the mask that it's applying through there, right? And I can inverse that mask, and you can even see it even better now, what you have, okay? So we're going to put the paint back on. We'll pick that dark gray again, tone. And then now with that mask, I can start painting something completely different, right? And then now, if I also wanted to, not just paint, but switch to a brush that also can add and take away, I can start pushing in on the surface based upon that mask, right? So now that mask is giving me a little bit of some kind of little damage in there, see? And I'm just now using the masking option, pushing it on that surface to start creating stuff. And then we can continue going with these masks and even grab like a masking rectangle. So there's different ways to mask that. I'm going to do a square, grab another image in here, and even use this as a masking feature, right? And so now that is available to me, and I can start pushing that in if I want to, and start creating this damage, switching to something like another brush in here. We'll add that color, right, and start putting some scratches in here. And this is why you can see what's happening here is why I want to have more and more topology. Because once you start getting into the sculptural element, I want a smooth, nice stroke that's happening in here. And right now in this particular area, there's not enough information. So this is why we're allowing you as a user to get up to the 12 million, 25 million, 40 million, 30 million, whatever you want to do, so that when I am sculpting across the surface, see, I'm getting a much nicer result. So now I can start putting some damage. And again, pressure sensitivity is going to be key for me here, to start just putting some lighter scratches through here, some deeper scratches, just putting some damage on this ship. And remember, I'm painting and adding a different material at the same time. So if we can make this really bold, you guys would really see the red. Maybe the primer color was red on this ship. I don't know, right? So this, now we turn everything on, it all starts coming together for me and starts creating a design element here that for me to do any kind of hard surface piecing that I want to have through, right? And I'm combining all these features that I've been talking about today with our live booleans, the brush system, taking advantage of topology, not taking advantage of topology, i.e. dynameshing. And there you have a wonderful little, this is definitely inspired by Elysium, which is an okay. Sid Mead did Elysium, which is near and dear. He's an amazing artist. So I pulled out my Elysium book and kind of got inspired from them. So, and went through that. So one last thing I also want to share before we call it a day is something like this that I'd really like to do also with the brushes is I want to start adding elements. So for my designing and hard surface, I like to layer things, kind of having layering, overlapping stuff happening. So for example, that's how I did, like this element in here, right? That's another layer, right? Different metals, different things going on. I really like doing something like that. So let's put something like that in the back here, okay? So I'm going to reuse, we're in the 3D world, I might as well reuse this same piece. So I'm just copying it, right? And then you can look at things like this and say, now I want to create something from that. So I can delete this if I want to. And then I can even do multiple ways to do this, right? I'm going to say, let's do an extract. So I can extract this, say OK, and it builds the surface right for you. So again, this can take anything. It's just building off that surface from there, right? But you can also, if we come back to this, let's go ahead and redo and bring everything back. And I'm going to do something like this. We'll take a look at this. See, there's different portions in here, right? So here I'll turn on double so you guys can see everything. We'll double that up. So there's different pieces. So I only really care about, here, we'll rotate that around a little bit. I only care about that yellow one. That's all I really care about at this point, okay? So I'm going to hide the rest of these. I'll make this a new polygroup, a new color. And so now that's still part of the surface, but I can now switch to ZModeler, and here's something else that's really cool, why we call this QMesh. It's very different. I'm going to say polygroup all. And instead of doing what I just did, that little extract and just extract out, I'm actually going to reuse the topology here and pull it off. So now it's actually a whole nother surface by itself, and then I can use the QMesh to even now make that. So these are completely separate pieces now that are not connected in any way. So I reused something over again, okay? And then to go a little bit deeper with this idea, like this piece up here, that layering of the piece that I've been working on, that was made using this piece that we have here, right? So I started going, let's use some of the features that we have here. I don't even need this information. That's enough right there, right? And then I'm going to say delete it. Okay, so I got geometry like this. Okay, and now I'm going to go back into those brushes that we kind of started off with. Watch, I'm going to reuse and do some different stuffs with this brush now. I'm going to go and switch the same kind of concept, a slicing circle, and this is going to allow me to slice and just create other designs by, it's actually edge looping and repolygrouping all at the same time right now, right? And then this brush does not work symmetrically, okay? But that's why we have stuff like mirror and weld. And then now I've got the other side, okay? And I'm now just putting another little element in here that I maybe want, okay? And I want now just maybe that yellow piece as an example, right? So I used the slicing to get me this piece to add to the existing ship, right? And that I can even now say, what if we not just use a curve, so use a circle, right? And I can add a circle. It can be oval if I want to, right? And then I can say, no, I want that to be a perfect circle. So I can come in here and say, I want a circle there, right? And every time it crosses over another polygroup, by default, this brush creates a new one for me, okay? A new little colored mesh. So I'm going to now say, let's go ahead and do this, and all I want is now that, right? So I'm doing multiple slices. I can make it the same group. And then now I just take this and do what we just talked about previously. I can even now say, let's delete it. So we'll delete that. And then going back again to the Z-remesher. So what I'm trying to really emphasize here, you guys, is the freedom that you get in ZBrush. It's not, I'm restricted to a polygon. I'm restricted to an edge. I'm restricted to a vertex. There's a complete freedom happening for me in here, and I'm just guessing on what I want to do. And then, like I said, I want this to have thickness, and in fact, I can dynamically even add this thickness. So we'll bring back the whole ship, and let's move this one further. Here we go. Let's switch back to this, okay, and we'll go. Let's go move it around. Maybe I want something like that towards the front of the ship now, okay? And then dynamically, instead of smoothing this, here I'm going to zoom in close for this for you all. I want some thickness, right? So this is just floating right now. It's got no volume. So I'm going to say, let's just add some thickness real quick. There you go. It's got thickness. Right? And I'm just seeing what thickness do I want. And then the beauty of this is you can see I can adjust it at any time that I want. This is dynamically adding some thickness to it. So which is nice. I can tell it to go only out. I can tell it to only go in, or 0, 50%. And if we want to be really cool, we can turn on micro polys and say, what do we want to, I want to be, boom. It's a nice little grid shape there now, right? So you can see it's using the topology, and I can swap out and make this look like many different things now. So I'll zoom in so you guys can see that. Right? So, Matthias, I think I'm probably at the date. Where'd you go? Where'd you go? I just saw him. Am I at question phase? Is the show even open anymore? Is it? I'll go. I'll keep going. I don't care. I'll go. If you guys want to see, I'll sit here and just do.
You will, folks.
I will. I will do it.
You won't stop.
Was there questions then online and questions? Did anybody have questions here on the floor so far? Nothing. Okay.
Nothing.
Nothing. No questions
No,
online?
they're really simple. Like really, everybody's been so thoroughly enjoying the presentations that you haven't had to ask anything.
No.
Hey, Lily, anything online?
Okay.
We got 2 questions. Hold on. And ooh, you got a Jeff Goldblum compliment. Let me get you some of these questions.
I'll take the Jeff. Yeah, while you're doing that, here I want to keep giving you guys something else that you can use. So you see this? I'm using this brush to kind of make grouping, right? And watch this. This is one of my favorite things to do hard surface as well. We got extruder brushes. Okay, so this is just a brush that's looking at a flat plane in essence. And when I draw out, I get that, right? And we're just extruding along. So you can grab this, swap it, grab it, swap it. So this is just taking, again, all these concepts that I was talking about. And like these brushes are also really good for like hair, especially for those that are 3D printing, right? You can make something that looks like hair. Pretty good. This is the kind of stuff that I'll do for printing out for sure. Okay, but what I want to use it for is something even cooler. Again, combining everything that we've already talked about. Let's look at this portion here, right? And here, I'm going to make that material, we'll go a little bit brighter so you guys can see that better. Okay, and I'm going to say, this is along a curve, these brushes. So they're being used along the curve. So I'm going to go and say, how about you look at the surface, and I'm going to say, just look at our poly groups and frame it. So now there's curves everywhere there, and I'm going to go a little bit smaller brush size, tap, and then you get them everywhere, right? I can change the size, change my brush size, tap. Change my brush size, tap. I can get different ones happening through here, right? I can switch it on the fly, stuff like this, and then take this, and then we'll come to the questions. Let's split it. Okay, so now this is its own piece here. Turn that to subtractive. Bam.
Wow.
Scribe lines. Like that. Yes, sir. Question.
Yes, we have several.
Oh, good.
They actually, internet is very brave.
I love the internet.
They fear no question. They ask
Yes.
the question. So, what types of files can be imported? USDZ maybe.
USD. You can import FBXs, OBJs, GoZ, Maya.ma ASCII file. So here you can see them here. We can put them here so you guys can see them online actually. So there's all your files. 3MF, which is for 3D printing.
There it is.
Those are important. Those are your importing files. Collada.
STL as well for 3D
Yep.
printing.
And our STL actually also stores color information, vertex color. And our Vermal export, we have a Vermal export as well. We'll do color. Our OBJ actually supports vertex color too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Another question. Are there features to bake some of the overall ship details into bump or displacement maps?
100%. Yes. Great question. Every mesh has the ability to create a normal map, a displacement map, texture map. So right within here, we even have vector displacement maps, which tomorrow at my 12:30, I'm going to touch on that a little bit. I'm going to do some organic stuff tomorrow too. So yeah, you can map. We even have a plugin that all the people in like the film industry would use or the game industry where you can export all these maps here.
Oh,
and
nice.
it's one button solution, and then all the maps just get exported, and they support the UDIMs and they support multiple maps in that direction as well.
Someone was wondering about UV maps. Are you going to cover that tomorrow as well?
I can. Are you going to watch tomorrow? Who's online? You're going to watch tomorrow?
Yeah,
12:30? I'll
I
jump
think
in.
they will. Look at our online
do it.
audience; they're very loyal.
Got it.
They show up.
I can throw it in.
They-
I love tangents. I'm Captain
Yeah,
Tangent over here.
yeah.
Let's do it.
Going
I'm
that
flying
tan-
through the air. NAB, welcome everybody. Thanks for being here.
Captain Tangent to my
Holy
left.
Anne Hathaway. Jeez. That's it? Those are all the
Awesome.
questions?
Those are all the questions. I think a lot of your questions are all going to be answered tomorrow in detail at your next presentation. For those of you who are tuning in online, catch Paul tomorrow for his last presentation of NAB. We only got him for 2, but we'll definitely have him on the show. For those of you who are tuning in, thank you so much for joining us for day 1. For those of you in our live audience, thanks so much for staying all day. You all are the true champions, and we will see you tomorrow bright and early at 9 Pacific. See you then.